Good afternoon, my dear viewers, and welcome to Global Education Training and Institute Live Talk #Disruptive Education. These live talks was initiated by our director, founder, Dr. Sunita Gandhi, solely with the aim to disrupt education and provide platform to the speakers and educationists and innovators around the world to come over here and share their ideas with the education fraternity so that they can learn from it and benefit from it. So, with this, we had remarkable speakers on our platform, and we have hosted around 1,000 talks till date since last year. And today we are here with another remarkable speaker of ours, Mr. Laeeq Ahmed Aqil. He is the president of MYK Educational Society, Hyderabad, Telangana. He is a mechanical engineer and former faculty of engineering and MJ College of Engineering and Technology. Presently, he is involved as a director of Integral Group of Institution and also as a director of Zambil Mart Private Limited, a chain of FMCG stores. He was also an alumna of IVLP hosted by Department of States USA. He is a certified practitioner of neuro-linguistic programming and completed his training under UK-based International Trainers Academy of John Grinder, co-creator of Classic and New Code NLP with Inner Peace Foundation. During his journey of past years, he has engaged in research activity and worked on heat transfer in non-Newtonic rheological fluids and also serving as a life coach for students and cooperative employees. So he is having a diverse interest. And today, our dear speaker will be speaking on the topic, the alternative education models. So over to you, sir. A very warm welcome to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Zainab and GETI, for giving me this opportunity to interact with our friends on the alternative education models. As we are all aware that education is a very primary need of any society to reform, any society to develop, any society to change. And since India, as per its constitution also, is a democratic, republic, socialist country, wherein education is a process through which there can be a democratization in the society, there can be a change in the basic lifestyles, there can be a change in the thinking process. Many aspects of life are there wherein the education has a huge impact. Now, due to pandemic, things have been changed. And before pandemic also, over the decades, we have seen and we have experimented different kinds of education models. Here we have community education model. Here we have a proper schooling system, a systematic schooling system, and the other models based upon the communities, based upon the regional linguistic diversity and all those things. So today, let us see what we can explore, especially in terms of the alternative education, because in this tough time, wherein the accessibility of education and its quality also is in an alarming situation. So let's go ahead and see about the alternative education models. So first of all, let's review the present education condition. There are different levels of education wherein a child grooms his knowledge, his abilities, and goes through the different levels of life. India is having its national education policy, which defines a frame under which the whole education process, whole education setup runs. There are timely reforms into the education policy also in reference to time, and the recent policy reforms have also been done in the past years. So primary education, then secondary education, then there is an higher education, university level education. Different things have been changed over the period of time. But the very important to focus in all these is the primary education. That is basic schooling or the basic learnability, how we are inculcating into the child. Maybe it starts from homeschooling, maybe it starts from an Anganwadi, maybe it may go for the formal education institutions. There are diverse systems present, but due to the pandemic, due to COVID, and a long uncertainty uh, among the policymakers, a long uncertainty about the people, those who were running the institutions, has disturbed the whole system. A long uncertainty among the students has disturbed the whole education system. And many things have become normal today. Still, we are in a dilemma to accept it, and still we are in a process of discovering that what new norms we need to consider, we need to go ahead with that, and what things we have to go back and retake the things what was established in the previous times or before pandemic. So going ahead to it, if we see uh, the education models we have. So if I can have a screen, next slide to it. So education in present times, we have seen this part. COVID after effects, the new normal. If we discuss this area, then on the grassroots level, there are many consequences faced by student community. There is a huge vulnerability on the grassroots, wherein due to COVID, the education has been shifted into the virtual medium, sudden shift into the virtual medium, wherein the Indian society was not in a ready position to accept that change, was not common in the Indian context, was not habituated to that form of education. Maybe in the Western countries it might be well equipped with, but Indian scenario, still the formal education was the dominant factor. But since there is a huge change because of the COVID, sudden COVID, thereafter the lockdowns, and then thereafter the social distancing norms and all those things, the education was seriously affected. And there is a huge grassroots vulnerability present today also. Then there was a huge gap of resource accessibility. In India, a huge population wherein the government has drafted policies under right to education for giving a proper access to all the communities, to all the people living maybe in the rural area, maybe living in the urban area, in the remote area, so that a child should have an accessibility of an education. And that was made a compulsory process part. But due to sudden change, we have also seen that the resource access was seriously lacking. People were facing the internet problem, the gadgets problem. Maybe the families may have one gadget, even the middle class families, one or two gadgets, but if they have one or two kids, how the parents can share those gadgets. There are a lot of problems the students faced. Many are there, those who could not attend the classes because of lack of availability of the resources. Many of the families are there wherein only one child can attend, the other child cannot. These things have seriously affected the student community, especially there is a serious psychological disturbance among students. And we need to plan an action how to overcome from this psychological pain also. Third thing, overall learning trajectory. The students were, as per the class system, what we have in our school education, they were marching ahead. But due to sudden change, the trajectory has gone down. The learning trajectory has gone down because of all these other disturbances. Teaching learning rapport. The teachers and a student, the rapport, what they were having in the classroom could not match with the rapport in the online processes. Then there was a huge lapse in the evaluation system also because of non-conducting of the examinations, as we have all conventional methods still present in our schooling system to examining a child. We could not make that conventional system possible at this moment. Therefore, there was a huge lapse in the evaluation process also. The new classrooms have been developed, virtual classrooms, wherein many students could not have a proper access because of other constraints. And there was a huge economic constraint due to this COVID crisis, due to lockdowns, due to other aspects of the COVID also. There was huge economic constraint. So these are all after COVID effects. Maybe we may be still in the process to say that the COVID has gone totally or not. We cannot make any conclusive statement still. There need to be all safety measures to be followed. But still, few things have become normal in these days. That is the online education system, other model of education, homeschooling, and all this. People are exploring that. So these alternatives are not new. These alternatives were discussed in different parts of the world, and they have very good outcomes because of these models. In many a times we discuss about the Finland model also, other countries model also, wherein these are the systems what they establish. Whether now after reopening of the schools, the education system what we are having, a formal schooling system, whether is only the substitute or is going to get back in the same format what it was there before, an year before, a 2 year before, or things are going to drastically change into it. So my understanding is that now things are coordinated. We cannot say that the whole thing will go back to the normal what we were having in the present previous times. Maybe the evaluation process gets changed. There may be other scientific mechanisms being adopted in the schooling system, wherein the evaluation of a child being done. Maybe other factors of psychology and other things are also being considered. Maybe the transfer of knowledge may also get changed. It may be a part of formal schooling and part may go to the virtual processes. So this integration is still in a process of happening. But the models what we have across the globe, which was already tested or which was already seen by many communities, is one what we can say as a community-based education model system. So community connects is very important, and we need to empower the communities to take charge of making education possible for their community, making education possible for their children. So a small niche group of communities must come together. Whatever the identity of the community might be, they need to take the charge of that instead of just putting a burden to the state and saying that this formal education process is the responsibility of a state. Yes, surely the state has to do its part in that, but communities must connect and take a charge of delivering the education process. Second thing is there must be a healthy coordinative mechanism to be evolved between teaching, learning, and parenting process, because a large part of time children are spending in their homes also. So how we can integrate this process of TLP? TLP exchange is one idea wherein teacher, student, and a parent should have a space to connect among themselves, and a child should get benefit of that. So that thing is one important TLP. I just mention it as teaching, learning, parenting process. So with the help of this, we can benefit child in more and more. Third thing is the homeschooling. Homeschooling also one of the good idea. Homeschooling or neighborhood schooling, we can say it's one good idea wherein the local resources we can utilize as much as possible, and connecting to the local resources and taking a voluntary responsibility, especially the people those who are going to organize that and the people those who are going to deliver a content must take a voluntary responsibility and make an access for homeschooling and neighborhood schooling process. And the next is the online education process. There are many consequences also, many problems also, which have aroused in the past 1 year because of online education process. It might be, one aspect might be that we may be not much familiar about the online process. One aspect might be that our children were not much being aware about the usage of technology. Our children might not be much aware about the access of technology. Or one aspect might be that we were not much aware about uh, the utilization of technology in its optimum sense. So because of that, children were using an online mode to have an education, but it was not, we cannot say it is a substitute, but to the extent what it need to benefit a child was also not seen properly. So we need to evolve to this idea also. What are the things which we can segregate, and schools can adopt this technique that online will be a part of our process. We cannot just say that totally we can move to the conventional mechanisms, or totally we can move to the online. 100% we cannot go with the online, 100% we cannot go with the normal schooling system what we were having in the previous days. But integration of these two, a part must be there which should be addressed by the online process. This need to be taught by the psychologists, the educationalists. They need to brainstorm onto this, and they need to think and have a smart policy in this, that wherein we can integrate the normal schooling with an online processes. And the accessibility of technology and technology integration with the education system is also one important aspect. Technology integration, when I refer, that the important aspect is the production of online content. So content production is one of the difficult tasks, and content production with respect to context is the most difficult part. So most of the content which is produced is in the other context, we use that and we try to fix into the our scenario. Then there will be a huge gap among the student who are learning and the content what is being fed to the student. There will be a huge gap in that. So local resources we need to take, local understanding, local language we need to take, local vocabulary we need to take, and with that we need to create the content with which we can integrate the technology, and we can benefit the child. And the next aspect is the industry connect. Now you cannot isolate the application part of the education. So it is a high time wherein education must be integrated with the industry, whatsoever it is, but it must be integrated with the industry, so that a child from the day one must have an imagination into its mind that whatever the things they are learning, how the application of those things are possible into life. Industry is one aspect I connect, but it can be a social connect also. Many aspects are there of the education which are related to the social phenomenon. It must be having a social connect. So it is a kind of a practical model wherein whatever the children are learning must have an reflection or must have an imagination into their mind, that they can be able to connect those things to their day-to-day life. So these are the things important for new education or else alternative education. Then there must be some new regulations also. So previously we were having different regulations for content delivery, different regulations for I mean to say evaluation system. So we need to evolve with the new regulations, and the regulations might differ. That it might have a diversity, and diversity, I believe that diversity is always helpful for the evolutions. If there is no diversity, if everyone start thinking in unilateral direction, if everyone thinks in the same way, then there will be no innovation. So we need to have a total diversity. So but there must be a common thinking process also, which can make scientific equivalence among all the people in the country and the people across the globe. Must have some points to connect, must have some nodes to connect with the world, with the outer world. A must have some nodes to connect with surroundings. Self must have some point nodes to connect with the nation. A self must have some nodes to connect with the international world. It must be very specific, it must be very defined, but a diversity must be always encouraged in the new regulations also, whatever the diversities we have across. So these are the things if we adopt in our education process, lot many things are there still to think in this aspect, but I believe that these are the things, if we adopt in our education process, then surely there will be a huge transformation, there will be a huge benefit, and we cannot just move on cursing about the situation and move forward, but we need to evolve through the difficult times, and always difficulty births the opportunities. So as difficult the situation is, that many opportunities it gets to individuals, to communities, to the society, and to nation. And taking that positive, we need to evolve ourselves. Thank you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for such an interesting and amazing presentation. And I hope our audience got a lot of insight about new trends and
Thank
new models of education by your presentation. So I would like to request my audience, if you have any question, please pose it to our dear speaker, Mr. Laeeq. Please go ahead and pose it to our. Sir, you have talked about different models and like how we can change the methods and which the things which we already have. So, would you like to give some special instructions, like to the teachers or to the school heads?
Regarding institutions.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the thing is that one important thing we need to understand is, in reference to teachers, we are much habituated about the conventional classroom system, because online was not integrated. Yeah, virtual classroom was not integrated before this pandemic times, or we were not very serious about that because we were having an opportunity to have a classroom. So things are getting transformed. Things are very choosy and niche. Now people are working on a very choosy and niche areas. It's totally technological integrated, and students, when it shifted to the online industry, they have lot of resource to gather. So your student is well aware about the world, but very important thing is to keep them on the axis, to keep them on the right direction is something important, especially in this information overload, the era we are living in, wherein if you want to browse some information over the internet, huge sum of information comes to you which is not very useful, but a lot of times in searching information students waste time. So you need to teach them the optimal methods wherein they can reach to the target for what they want to learn. So teachers must also get upgraded to it, and also they must make child to get benefit of it. So keeping onto the true access is one important challenge in these days in front of teachers.
Thank you, sir. We have this question for you. How much activity-based learning be experiential with the use of technology? You can see it on the media screen.
See, activity-based learning, wherein we were using the models and all those things for giving an exposure to the child. Now the technology has made it very simpler for us that we can automate the things. Now this is an era we are moving into, the artificial intelligence and all those things. So most of the things what we cannot avail directly, or we don't have an opportunity to get it in a physical format or a prototype or something like that. So we can directly go with the virtual mediums, and wherein we can animate the things, wherein we can make an automation of it, and we can show wholesome of process, so that the connectivity of the visual, I mean to the hearing, and also the mapping of those things could be in a better and easily possible, so that child will have a great opportunity to have an imagination onto it. Wherein normal a speech process, what it do, it takes time for a child to connect it or map into their mind and imagine the thing what you were telling. But the visual, or through technological means, the visual process is bought, the automation process is bought at very easy, that we can make things realistic in front of the child.
So thank you for answering this question. And yes, AI and virtual models can help the teachers to get their students indulged into activity-based learning. And there's another one for you, sir. Can we upload their activities on YouTube to generate more interest?
Yes, obviously, technology is always at your doorstep. You can use in the best way, but it should not have any negative impact on child, because learning is a continuous phenomena. Must not have any regrets or anything left behind. So see all those things contextual based upon your scenario, and you can move ahead with that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for answering these questions from K. Banerjee. So, with this, we come to an end of our session, and we thank our dear speaker for enlightening us and helping us through this very new things and like some old and some new mixture of all those things in alternative education models. So I want to thank my audience and thank my speaker, and see you next time. Till then, bye bye.
Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Thank you.